Are you familiar with the Christian Commission?
No, not at all.
Okay. It originated out of the YMCA in New York City in 1861 under the direction of this man, George Stuart. And it started with 12 to 18 volunteers. And each man was given a badge like this one here. It was part of their kit. Anyone that joined the commission got a kit. They got a badge. They got a rubber blanket and canteens, haversacks, cups, pails, whatever they could use like that for the purpose of ministering. So as the soldiers marched off to war, the Christian Commission would distribute Bibles and hymn books and gospel literature. But then as the casualties started mounting on the battlefields, there was a group that would be waiting at home for a telegram about a battle, and they had pledged to be out the door in 5 minutes with their pack ready to go to the battlefield to serve the wounded. By the end of the war, there were 5,000 of these delegates in operation. Men, women, and even young people had a part in serving. So they ministered in different ways. This is one way they ministered. They only built one of them. You have any idea what that is?
No.
That is a coffee wagon.
Oh, okay. I see the spigots.
Yep. 108 gallons an hour, coffee, tea, or cocoa.
There was fire here or coal?
These little doors here would slide up, and you'd build your fire in there.
Okay.
Yeah. And then your substance and water would come in these things here. And we actually had a replica of this year we worked with down at Appomattox. It served at Appomattox as well. It was there. Matter of fact, they said that after the Confederates surrendered, there were a couple of Confederate regiments smelled the coffee, and they hadn't had real coffee for a long time. And the aroma drew them through the Union lines towards the Christian Commission camp, and the delegates saw them coming. They got cups of coffee ready, and as they approached, they gave them a cup of coffee with their left hand and welcomed them back to the Union with their right. A lot of soldiers didn't even know what that was. One soldier thought it was some kind of new weapon when it came into the camp until he got a taste of coffee, and then he says, well, I like the ammunition this new weapon produces.
Yeah.
They did a good work. This was all their accomplishments in just 4 years. They preached over 58,000 sermons, held 77,000 prayer meetings, over 1 million Bibles given out, 18 million religious newspapers, over 1 million hymn books, 8 million knapsack books, 39 million pages of tracts. They wrote 92,000 letters home for soldiers disabled, and that's how much money the general public contributed during that time, over $6 million.
That's a really big number now.
It is.
This book?
I'm sorry?
What is this book?
This is a reprint from an 1868 book that was compiled from their journals.
Okay.
Every delegate kept a real good journal, and so this secretary of the commission, he compiled these into this book, and this is a reprint that we have. Some of these men and women would actually leave their homes and their professions at their own expense and go to the battlefield to care for the wounded. So they credit them with helping to save over 1,000 lives just at Gettysburg alone. 450 men showed up there with about 90 women. They really did a good work. They served on every major battlefield, but not one monument commemorates their work. Yeah. The only thing you got in those days when you joined the Army was your outerwear. Your shirt and everything else was yours. So if you were wounded, in the shirt, in the upper part, and it was spoiled with blood, the only way to get another one would be from home. So there's one story at Antietam, Battle of Antietam. There was a soldier leaning against a barn, and all he had on was his army jacket, no shirt. And the delegate had one more shirt to hand out, and he looked at him, and he walked up and said, well, soldier, this is my last shirt. Looks like you could use it. And the Union soldier says, well, I sure can. I'm going to take it, but I tell you what, I'm going to give it to that Confederate over there. He needs it worse than me. Yeah, it's kind of a neat story. Yeah. At City Point, Virginia, I believe it was there that there was the 25th Corps were made up of black soldiers, and they wanted to give them Bibles and hymn books and things, and they said, not hardly any of us can read and write. So they sent for 50 teachers and Sunday school primers like this one, and each black regiment went out, cut down trees, and built their own schoolhouse. And in 3 months, they taught 20,000 black soldiers to read and write. So this is a reproduction of what they handed the troops. These are free if you'd like to have one of those. Welcome to that. This is Annie Wittenmyer. She was a delegate of the Christian Commission. She was from Iowa. And she just happened to visit a hospital one day and find her brother dying of typhoid fever. She realized that they weren't getting good nutritious food in these hospitals. They were saying that the hospitals were killing more men than the Confederate bullets were. So she went to General Grant and eventually Abraham Lincoln, and she got permission to start these dietary kitchens. And this is the new menu for these dietary kitchens. And after they started getting these going, the men started recovering from their wounds faster and getting back into the ranks.
Okay.
And the unique thing about these, there were 100 of these in operation by the end of the war, and they were all run by women that were paid, and soldiers recovering from their wounds did the cooking.
Okay.
That was kind of unique for that day.
Yeah.
And General Grant, although he had given his blessing for these dietary kitchens, he was hearing some rumors about them that he thought was too good to be true. So he took off his general's uniform one day and put on civilian clothes and went to check it out. So he went in there, "How you doing, soldier?" "Oh man, I'm doing great. What do you think of this food?" "Oh, this food is great. I'm getting stronger every day. I'll soon be out of here and be able to join my regiment again." So he was real impressed. He realized just how well these were working. But before he left, one of the soldiers, thinking he was a member of the Christian Commission, he didn't recognize him as General Grant, asked him for a pair of socks. So General Grant got him a pair of socks. But any envelope that had the Christian Commission logo on it got free postage. As you notice, there's not a stamp on here. This letter probably came from a prisoner because there's a little note on the back talking about how awful the prisons were. The Christian Commission were the only organization to be trusted by both sides crossing the Mason-Dixon line with mail from the prison camps. The Christian Commission encouraged soldiers to write home many times, and even though they did get free postage at times, they did issue stamps for the soldiers to use. So they supplied stationery, envelopes, and stamps encouraging soldiers to write home, which was the main source of communication in those days. Okay, and this track here, the leaky tent, was actually it was written based on a story that took place on Maryland Heights, which is just above us here to our right. A soldier had his tent was full of holes, and he enjoyed that on a nice day and a nice night. He wanted to look at the stars and feel the breeze, and his comrades told him that he needed to get a new tent or allow them to help him fix it. So, but he wouldn't listen to them. So the next night, a bad storm came up, and cold weather came in, and he caught pneumonia and died because he wouldn't take the advice and listen to his comrades. And that's so much like us today. We need to listen to others and take counsel and not be hard-hearted and rebellious, especially towards the truth about the gospel and what Jesus did for us on the cross, our need for salvation.